Hey guys, welcome back to another episode on the What I Love About Sex podcast. So today I'm going to give you 3 ways to get your partner to an orgasm if she is having trouble. Now, a lot of women do have trouble, and these could be for mental reasons or physical reasons. A mental reason, for example, would be she has a hard time sexually releasing and just feeling sexually free with you. Or with anyone. Maybe she never has. It could feel very vulnerable for people. I mean, it is when you're just like in pure ecstasy during sex and you're just like making noises and your body's squirming in weird ways. Like people can get in their head about that and be like, oh, I don't want to that's embarrassing or that's weird. I don't want to unleash that. So that's a mental example of what can hold you back from an orgasm, hold women back especially. And then a physical example could be she maybe doesn't masturbate, hardly ever, and she doesn't really understand her body. So because she doesn't understand her body and the way that it functions sexually, she has a hard time allowing a partner to make her body function sexually. No surprise there, right? If you have a hard time yourself, you're not going to be able to communicate to your partner what your needs are, and you can't really explain what you want, and then he doesn't really get it, and then you don't get there, right? So there are multiple reasons why orgasms can be difficult. And there's also emotional reasons, right? Like we did mental and physical. An emotional one would be if you're feeling disconnected from your partner, or if there's an elephant in the room that you guys need to discuss and address and you're not, right? You're putting it off. There's a time in my relationship when this happened and it completely just shut me down from having an orgasm. It was crazy. And usually I'm very easily orgasmic. And because this thing was in the way or in my head, there was no way I was going to have an orgasm, no matter how hot the moment was, so that's why it's really important to understand, what's going on within your relationship and get to know your partner. And that's typically why the more you know your partner and the more communication you have with them, the better sex gets, because you do feel more free. You do feel like you could talk about anything. You do know that you have to address certain things before sex could feel right again. And therefore it's great because there's no blocks, right? The first step I want you to pay attention to when it comes to giving your partner an orgasm is practicing to tease and build the tease. Build the tease. Actually, early on in the day, graze your hand around her waist and just keep walking by. Smile at her, give her a little wink, right? Maybe she's doing dishes and some women don't like this. So understand who your woman is, right? Know your audience. Maybe she's doing dishes and you go up behind her and you grab her down there, you grab her ass. Get to know what are the little things that you do that make her smile or make her get a little excited to the point where she's like, babe, oh my God. And then you could just smile and keep it as foreplay. Keep it as foreplay. Have that type of touch sporadically throughout the day, especially on a night when you think you're going to have sex, because it does matter. It matters. You think that a little ass grab won't do much if it's 10 a.m. and you're probably going to have sex that night, but it matters. Just like it matters if you have sexual performance anxiety and you do a breathing exercise at 10 a.m., that matters. That makes a difference when it comes time for sex. You are training your body to regulate. In the sexual example, you're getting your body sexually prepared. It's on the lookout a little bit for ooh, is something else going to happen sexually? So you're kind of always a little excited about that. And there's not enough of this. There's not enough because we say we're busy or because as a couple, maybe we're not connected and we're not working on that connection. But for you to have these little moments of intimacy, whether it's in a loving way or in a more hypersexual way, it's important, right? So you want to keep that tease going. And you also don't want to allow the tease to lead into something crazy. It's a tease for a reason. Practice the buildup. And then when you get to sex itself, you want to slow down, especially with a woman who's having a hard time reaching an orgasm. Because when you slow down, you allow her to have a better awareness of her body. Like she's able to figure out what feels good when you're going really slow. She's able to see what angle helps her out a little bit. If you're going fast, bam, 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 I'll flip you, bam, 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 and everything's go, 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 she can't learn and she can't express to you what feels good because everything's moving too quickly and it's too intense. When you slow down the moment, she's able to communicate easier. She's able to be in that feeling for a little bit and take her time and further relax, because I always say this, but you need a certain level of relaxation before you can get aroused. So if you're going into this like fast bam, bam sex, like she may not have gotten to a relaxed enough place to be able to get in her sexual zone, if that makes sense. And this is why even before penetration happens, I kind of skipped this part. Like, say you're flirting throughout the day, right? Doing the little touchy things. And then you get into bed. I encourage you to like watch a movie or something, put on Netflix, you're in bed, and start like rubbing her leg up to her waist and have like a gentle rub that goes like all the way. Maybe you caress like the side of her breast, and then you go down back to her leg. And you just have this soft, gentle touch that's going up with your fingers and then down. And there's nothing hypersexual about it. You're not going up and then grabbing her tits. Like, it's not like that. It's like a very gentle, soft touch. And then maybe you go up into her hair and like, caress her scalp and then go back to her body. That's a way of warming her up sexually. And I swear, guys do not do this enough. It feels so good. It feels like a woman can get so turned on by this. So I don't want to say fast, but it just feels so good. And it makes sex so much easier to have because these type of moments make a woman wet. They get her mentally and physically ready to the point where she's like craving your cock. Like, you want her to crave you. You need to take time so that she can crave you. There needs to be slow enough motion so that she's like, oh my God, just like put it in, and if she's not saying that, she's not the type of woman to say that, that's fine. Most women don't like say that, but you want her to be thinking that and like feeling that way, right? Like, you want her so prepared that by the time you penetrate, you're like, whoa, she was ready for this. Like, it's obvious she was ready. And it's in her eyes, it's in her body. It's like everything is just saying she's ready. And a lot of guys don't wait for that ready point because they just go bam, 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 bam. Like, let's just do it. Oh, it's hot. This is how porn stars do it, right? Like, you have it in your head that everything has to be quick to be hot or like fast to be hot. And it can be hot, certainly can. There's a time and a place. But if your woman is struggling with orgasm, you definitely want to slow everything down to help her learn. And then you guys can get to the point of going really fast occasionally, right? Because that's not the type of sex you always want to have. So try that out. Try everything slow. I swear, I told one of my clients, I was like, everything you're doing, do it in slow motion. Like, I'm serious, slow motion. Like, I want you to feel ridiculous. And he did it. And he was like, my wife says thank you because, man, I did not think I had to slow it down that much. And I'm like, yep, most guys don't. Step 2, you want to use communication as foreplay also. Saying things to her like, oh, you want to do this later? Maybe you're laying next to her and you're whispering in her ear, right? Because you guys are laying together, spooning, and you're like, what do you want me to do to you right now? And having a little like sexy conversation, that also, if you don't feel confident, like dirty talking full out, I mean, this is dirty talking in a way because you're talking sexually, you're talking for the intention of preparing her sexually and getting you both turned on. And sometimes that could sound like, what do you want me to do to you? Do you like how I touch you like this? Yeah, do you want me to give you a foot rub? You know, and you're like asking sweet, sexy questions and then doing things that are more sensual and you guys are connecting. And sometimes it could sound like, I love being with you. Or it could sound like, I love making you feel good. Or it could be a question like, don't you love just laying here together? You know, those types of things before you have sex can feel really nice, can make a very safe emotional space. And I usually don't like to use the safe space phrase, but it really does make a difference when you have a guy saying things to you like, oh, this is so nice just being here with you. Your body feels incredible. I love touching you. How do you feel right now? Those types of phrases or questions are just like, chef's kiss, chef's kiss. So nice. And that is a great part of foreplay too, like being verbal and communicating, because you're not just saying like, oh, you know what I want to do to you? You know, you're asking questions, you're getting feedback. And that's why this is foreplay. It's communicative foreplay. So don't forget to use communication foreplay as a tool to help your woman who struggles having orgasms, because it will definitely help. And third, and probably most important, you have to prioritize her clitoris, okay? 80% of women need clitoral stimulation to have an orgasm. 80%. 80! It's a lot. It's a fucking lot. All right, and I love how Vanessa Marin, she's a sex therapist. She explains it really well for everyone to understand. There are not many nerve cells in the vagina. In the clitoris, oh my God, forget it. There's like double in the clitoris than there is the penis. But you want to think of the clitoris being the equivalent of the penis and the vagina being the equivalent of the balls. Can you get off with someone touching your balls? How likely is it? Maybe you can, but it's probably a small percent of you that can. In fact, I know it is. So you have to look at it like that. Vagina and balls, clitoris and penis. Clitoris is the equivalent sexual organ to the penis. So that means if you want to get her off, you need to pay attention to that damn clitoris. Just as she pays attention to your penis. Don't let your male ego get in the way and be like, oh, well, no, real man gets his woman off vaginally. I feel like that's a thing because in movies and in porn, everyone's penetrating and the woman's getting off. And that is not reality. Women are getting insecure about the fact that they're not coming vaginally when it is 20% of women that come vaginally alone, right? And then there are women who get to know their body and are able to come with penetration, but with the right angles, because the clitoris, when the clitoris is internally penetrated, because the clitoris is like 5 inches, it's pretty big. It goes inside and it wraps around. So when there are certain angles of penetration, a woman can use those angles to her advantage so that she can come during penetration, knowing that it's the angle of hitting her clitoris that did it. So even if a woman needs clitoral stimulation, like myself, like I'm able to know what positions I can do to get off without having to touch my clitoris. And some women can do that. So they kind of play around with it in that way. But yeah, as the man, you have to pay attention to her clitoris, because this may be the reason why she's not having orgasms. Like there's not enough clitoral stimulation. That's not fair. You know, like I know it's not your job, but if you're not creating space for her to explore herself or use a toy during sex or touch herself during sex, like you need to create that space so that she feels confident and comfortable doing that. I've definitely felt more comfortable with certain guys than others when it came to touching myself while being penetrated. Like some guys, it kind of seemed like their ego was crushed by me doing that, because it's like, why do you have to do that? I'm fucking you. And then other guys are like, oh yeah, it's so hot. Touch yourself. Like that's where I was like, oh, thank you. Yes, I have to. Like I didn't say that, but it was like, that was the thought. It was like, oh, okay, cool. I got like, not that I need permission, but it's just so much easier to be with a partner who's like, yeah, babe, like get it the way you have to, like how can I help? Like, what can you do? It's like, that's the type of communication that's going back and forth. It's just sex becomes actually enjoyable and fun that way when you have a partner who's open to learning how your body works and they want you to win. They want you to win. They want you to get that orgasm. Get it. Cross the finish line. And you want to be one of those guys that is supportive of her and creates that room and that space for her to work with her body and figure out what feels great. And if you're touching her and she's like, oh my God, yes, oh, that feels good, make sure you stay at the same tempo and the same direction of movement, because it is so hilarious that every guy, like almost every, not every guy, many men will speed up and like be like, oh yeah, you like that? Yeah. And it's like, no, slow down. Like you should have stayed at the pace where I said I liked it. So that's a huge tip. If you guys hear from your woman, if you see that she's in obvious bliss or she's loving what you're doing, that doesn't mean she wants you to speed it up and go faster. It means she wants you to keep it exactly how you're doing it. Like some women will just stay, women are so different. Like some women will stay really still when they're about to come and you think, and she's like, oh, keep going. But her body's really still. And you might get in your head like, oh, well, she's obviously not enjoying it. Like she's like still as a rock. like this she doesn't seem relaxed but that's her body. That's her way of accepting an orgasm. Like that's how she flows. Other women are like harder, faster. And then, they only want that the last 10 seconds, that harder, faster. Some women want the harder, faster the whole time. Some women want really slow the entire time, leading up to a very intense orgasm where you're continuously going slow. So there are so many ways it can be done. And I think like porn makes it so difficult to understand that because all you see is like hard and fast and screaming and like, fuck me, when really that's not everyone's choice. And I think a lot of women can feel, insecure about that because they're like, oh, I'm nothing like porn star and something wrong with me. And then she gets too in her head and that prevents an orgasm from happening. So make sure you're paying attention to that clitoris, that you worship that clitoris, that you make her feel good about playing with herself, playing with her clitoris when being penetrated, or you asking her like, can you touch yourself in front of me so that I know how to touch you? Like that's a great thing to say. I've never had a guy say that to me. I wish actually, you know what? I think I had one and I thought it was great. I loved it. Like you have to be willing to learn about her and not just think, oh, I should know this, because you shouldn't. Every single woman, as I've been explaining, is different and you can't just know. The only way you know is when you communicate and when you try to learn and come from that point of realizing I don't know it all, but I can learn and then I could get really fucking good once I learn. And that's how it goes. All right. So prioritize clitoral stimulation. Play around with different movements, a circle, an up and down, a back and forth, harder, faster, lighter, slower, and asking questions along the way. And asking her, after a sex experience, like, what was the best part of that for you? Out of all that, what felt best for you? And then you get a little closer, like she gets clearer on what's feeling good and you get clearer and you guys get closer because you're talking about it and you're getting to know each other more sexually and feeling more confident sexually with each other. It's a great thing, So I know I spit out a lot of examples and things you could try or do. So if you have to re-listen to this and jot down some notes or just take one thing that you're going to walk away with and actually do, that would be amazing. But overall, if you have a woman who's struggling with her orgasm, this happens, and it's not your fault as the guy. It's just something you guys can figure out together and you could support her to help her, figure out how her body wants to function at this point and what her body needs, and making communication easy. That's it, guys. Have an amazing morning, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world, and I'll talk to you soon.